Hello everybody, it's Nicole here and I am back, and this time I have another 2 book reviews for you. Who would have thought? So, like if you if you saw my video on Helga's Diary before, you know that it was listed as a book review, but again, I can't really give a book review on someone's personal experiences through the Holocaust, so this first video is going to be a lot like that. When I went to the library, I took out 2 books on the Holocaust, people's perspectives from what it was like in the camps. So today's book, or one of today's books, is Dancing with the Enemy by Paul Glaser. Glaser. I'm not sure exactly how to say it. But it's called Dancing with the Enemy and My Family's Holocaust Secret. And basically the story flips between Paul's perspective in present time, and he's learning that his family has Jewish roots, which we find out he didn't know, and his father kept a secret, and his mother kept a secret from him. And then we flip over to Rosie, which is his aunt, and we're in the past with Rosie, and we're learning about what life was like for her. She's a dance teacher. She's just your average, young woman trying to have fun, do the right thing, kind of just live her life, and then the Holocaust starts happening. It's very interesting. It's different. It's very different from Helga. And it's another very different perspective that I don't think I've really seen before. It's not something you learn about in the history books. It's not something I remember really touching upon. And it's very interesting because of what she goes through. And it's her parents, it's her and her brother, and then her brother stays hidden somewhere for most, if not, I believe, all of the war. Her father ends up in a work camp, then her and her mother end up in the camp. And it's very interesting to see her because she's very smart. Not to say that anybody was smarter than the other during this, but she played her cards right, and she had a lot of luck on her side, I would say. And it's interesting to see how she enters certain camps and she works her way into certain positions, and it's almost controversial in a way as well because of some of the relationships that she has with the Nazi officers at certain camps. People would not like it necessarily, but I mean, also you can't judge because she survived. Spoiler alert, she survived. But I mean, she survived, and so it's hard to judge. And then it's also coming from her perspective, so she's talking about these guys, and yes, they're German officers sometimes, but they're also people where they're smart and they're funny, and not all of them are, the Hitler's regime, Heil Hitler, like, I'm going to kick you to the ground, kill you as soon as I can kind of thing. Some of these guys that she talks about, I mean, they're very human. Not saying that Nazis deserve sympathy or whatever, but it's just interesting to see a different point of view. It's also interesting because she goes to a few different camps, and I have never read a perspective of someone who's gone to so many different places that she has. She works as a secretary at one place, and then the part that horrified and fascinated me the most was at Auschwitz, she became one of the people that the famous doctors, Dr. Mengele and Dr. I can't pronounce his name, it's the Coben, something like that, experimented on. And she talks about a few of those, and it just like, I'm in shock. I guess in my mind I thought that everyone that was experimented on probably ended up dying because of how cruel the experiments were, but she is one of the probably very few that ended up surviving. She also at one point works at the gas chambers, and one of the people that she comes into contact with, it becomes kind of almost a nightmare for her later on. She keeps thinking about that one person that she saw there, and it's very, very powerful, some of the things that happen at the camp. She talks about people and what happens to them. She talks about friends that she makes there and what happens. She talks about people that work alongside her in the gas chambers during the experiments. Just everything, and there were certain lines that just stopped me in my tracks, which is new for me. It's just, like, I ended up, when I first picked this book out, I was kind of half and half on it, because I thought she was just going to spend all of her time at one camp, because the way that they lay the book out, they make it sound like she survived the war because she taught dance lessons to the German officers, and I thought that was all she was going to do at a certain point. So when she got to one of the camps they spoke of, I was like, oh, okay, so this is going to be the rest of the story. So I was hesitant to take the book at first, but I'm really glad I did, because it's very powerful, and you don't see or hear about these things usually. Um, I don't have the right words to ever truly describe it, but I think, like, just, I'm thinking of some of these moments that I read about, and I would just sit there and stare at the words on the page and go, wow. It's different, you know, and I've always been interested, horribly so, and fascinated, and just awestruck by what happened at those camps. So it was a very difficult but yet really good book to read at the same time on it. Um, it's interesting too, just like the way Rosie carries herself. At some points in time, I disagreed with her choices, but then again, I wasn't in her situation. And it was hard for her, I feel like, to make these choices, but she had to do what she had to do. Also, at the end of the book, it's interesting because a lot of the people that you meet, um, she goes over what it was like to find them after the war, or if she tried to, and some of those you just sit there and go, wow. And so I think I'm going to stop it before I just keep saying wow and just staring at the camera. So again, I highly recommend it. I'm going to return it to the library right now, so if you go to my library, you can pick it up. But Dancing with the Enemy, My Family's Holocaust Secret, Paul Glaser. Also very interesting, of course, one final note to understand Paul's father and why he kept the secret of their Jewish heritage for so long. And it's interesting to see how he talks to family members that he meets through learning he's Jewish. So I will be giving a second book review in about like a minute or so. I hope you enjoy. Again, this is not really a book review, but definitely a strong recommendation. You should definitely look this up if you have it in your library. If you're interested in the Holocaust, crazy powerful perspective. So, alright guys, I'll see you in a bit. Bye.